Brockhampton, worst to best albums. Alright guys, I'm going to talk to you about the worst and the best Brockhampton albums. That means we're going to talk about all of them, at least all of the official ones, the ones that you can listen to on streaming. I'm very particular, and I only consider stuff that's on Spotify to be legitimate. Stuff that I can scrabble to my last FM. Only that is legitimate. I'll get over that one day, but for now, that's my criteria. So, Brockhampton is a band I really love. I've always loved them. I've seen them. I've seen them once. I think maybe twice, but I think just once. I saw them when they released Iridescence. Saw them in San Francisco. Brockhampton is my #1 most scrabbled artist. So when I say I have a strong relationship with Brockhampton, I mean it. I like every album they've ever released. I know more than I would like to about the personal lives of the members, where they might lean politically, who has a recent suicide in the family, whose parents disowned them. And if you're watching this video, you're probably just like me. You love Brockhampton. And if you don't love them, at least you've heard of them. You're watching this video for a reason. Whoops, we're gonna edit that out. That's... Brockhampton is iconic and timeless. You're gonna hear about them for a while, even though they have broken up, sadly. They are so important. They've done a lot of hard work for their genre and just for their own band, their own stuff, their own interests. But they have done some very important work. They're very fun. They're very creative. They absolutely deserve your attention. And I'm gonna tell you which albums you should listen to. I actually think you should listen to all of them. But this is Ooze Pop's list of worst to best Brockhampton albums. What do you think I'm gonna think the #1 Brockhampton album is, huh? Write your guesses in the comments. Thank you in advance for watching this video. It means a lot to me that you've stuck it through this far, that you're gonna keep sticking it through, because this video is gonna be fun and entertaining. I've put a lot of work into this video, okay? Follow me on Twitter. Right now, my current @ is PunishedNormie. Follow @PunishedNormie. I'll probably link it somewhere. And finally, shout out to Elon Musk. I think you're cringe. I disagree with a lot of what you do. You're the most dislikable person of the modern century, the modern era. But thank you for unbanning pretty much all of my accounts, except the one I really wanted unbanned. Can't really complain. At least I got something. I'm back on Twitter. Back on Twitter, you guys, @PunishedNormie. Stick around. Hope you guys like this video. First album we're talking about is TM. Sorry, but that's the first one on the list, guys. The reason why this is the first one I'm talking about is because it's definitely easily their weakest album. It's definitely enjoyable. I didn't like it at first, but TM is at the bottom of the list, or I guess you would say at the top of the list. It's the worst Brockhampton album because it just feels very phoned in. All their performances are really good and creative,
but it just feels like they just showed up to the studio and did it without trying too hard. Despite every negative possible thing I could say about it, it's still a very good album. Songs like FMG and New Shoes show that Brockhampton still knows how to produce the magic that they used to produce, but it just doesn't hit as strong as like the Saturation trilogy, maybe like Roadrunner, Ginger. And for that reason, this album is the first one I'm going to mention. It's the worst Brockhampton album. Compared to The Family that Brockhampton released just before TM, this one feels a little directionless. The Family, although it is only Kevin Abstract at the end of the day, spoiler alert, it does have a little bit more of a sense of direction and a purpose than this one does. What up, family? I just watched The Whale with Brendan Fraser. But I'm not going to talk about that. I just saw The Whale with Brendan Fraser. But I'm not going to talk about it. I'm talking about the Brockhampton album called Iridescence. This is next on my list for my Brockhampton worst to best list. And I'm going to tell you why, okay? First, let's see if I can't find a place to set this down. Okay. Brockhampton, Iridescence. This is the next worst album by Brockhampton, and I'll tell you why. This album is better than TM for reasons that are probably going to recur in the next albums, right? I'm about to give a reason as to why Iridescence is better than TM, and this thing I'm going to mention is probably going to come up a lot in this video. And what that is, it's the banger to filler ratio, right? The banger to filler ratio. Most albums in general, probably every album, at least most mainstream albums or most pop albums, they would have what I call the banger to filler ratio. And just to kind of put it into perspective, rather than getting too deep into it, I think Iridescence is better than TM because of the banger to filler ratio, okay? TM is consistently good. There's probably fewer skips on TM than there is on Iridescence. The reason that Iridescence is higher on the list is simply because of the banger to filler ratio. Yeah, I might skip a track or two off of Iridescence. I even happen to think it's quite a disorganized release for Brockhampton. It's probably their most disorganized. It's probably the release that has the least amount of inspiration, of vision. It sounds good, it feels good, but what was the idea? You get what I'm saying? Iridescence is a good album because it's got some of Brockhampton's best songs on here. Jove or Jovert. I honestly don't know how to pronounce it. I think it might be Jove or Jove, something like that. This is one of Brockhampton's best songs. So is Tanya. I'm sure I can think of more. The first song, New Orleans. Some of these songs are really solid Brockhampton songs. Some of their best in their entire discography. The sad part is, as I mentioned earlier, this album just feels like there's less of a sense of direction compared to some of their best albums. That's okay. That's totally fine. It seems like the focus was production quality. The production on this album is awesome. You can hear awesome beats, really good samples. They even sample their own music, I think, on this album. If it's not on this album, it's a different album. Regardless, musically, production-wise, Iridescence is very impressive. But performance-wise, if you've listened to every Brockhampton album, it's very obvious that this is some of their weakest performances, even compared to TM, right? This is only higher than TM because of the banger to filler ratio. The best songs on Iridescence are far, far better than the best songs on TM. It's just simple as that. I might not skip any tracks on TM like I would on Iridescence, but the tracks that are awesome on Iridescence are way better than any track on TM, and you know I'm right. So that's why this one is above TM on the worst tracks, or on the worst albums.
One day, we will all be dead. The next album on my list, if you'd even consider it an album, is All American Trash. I'm choosing to put this mixtape, this compilation, on this list because it is such a strong release, okay? This is Brockhampton's first full release, not a full-length album, but a release full of songs. They had a single before this, and that single didn't even make it onto this album. But All American Trash is awesome. One of Brockhampton's best things that they've done. And this is about the point where I stop calling them the worst albums and where I start calling them the best albums, right? There's a track on this mixtape called Ben Carson. And that one is really, really good. I think you guys should check it out. Really simple, not much going on with it, but just somehow happens to hit you hard. And it's very likable. Highly recommend. Please watch it, okay? Please listen to it, I should say. Please listen to it. Really good song. Tracks like Michigan and Infatuation are just smooth, slick, and sexy R&B. These tracks are probably not Brockhampton's most memorable tracks that they have in their discography, but the vibe is just awesome. It's sexy, it's slick. You can't help but like it. You might not go back and sing it in your head, but you just can't help but vibe and enjoy it when you do hear it on. Brockhampton used to have a member in their group called Rodney Tenor, or as he's known on this project, Rodney Smoothback Tenor. This guy was really awesome, contributed very good things to the group. If you ask me, he's a less narcissistic Kevin Abstract. That can be good and bad, okay? It's good because it makes the songs more widely accessible, just in my personal opinion. But we all know that Kevin Abstract's narcissism actually took the band much, much farther and farther and farther. So in terms of sound-wise, I think Rodney Smoothback Tenor makes more sense to people, and yet it was Kevin Abstract's narcissism that brought the group to where they were. So don't think Do not think that my comment calling Kevin Abstract narcissistic is a negative one, because it's not. Many of us, including myself, have the tendency to be narcissistic, especially when trying to achieve your goals. Look at Kanye West. You don't become a billionaire rapper without a little narcissism, okay? The first half of this album is a lot stronger than the second half of this album. I'm saying album. It's really a mixtape, but it's just so strong. It's hard to say it's a mixtape. When you listen to it, you have this intro skit and the way that each song flows together. It's absolutely an album, even though it's not an album. It absolutely is. Like, you understand why I'm calling it an album. I don't even have to debate that or prove that to you. I feel like if you're a Brockhampton fan and you've heard All American Trash, you know what I'm talking about, okay? First half of this album, better than the second half, but the second half is still really smooth, really nice, really enjoyable. Yeah, so to wrap up my thoughts on this album, or mixtape, whatever you want to call it, I just think it's really smooth and nice. And even though it's not an official Brockhampton album, I really want this on vinyl. This is one of my favorite Brockhampton things. I mean, they all are. I love Brockhampton. You guys know they're one of my favorite bands. They're my most scrobbled artist on Last FM, by far. Next up, I think, would be Black Midi. I love this band, and All American Trash just shows a young and hungry band really putting in their hardest effort to be recognized, and I think it pays off. Obviously, the later albums in their career would go on to be much, much bigger, but the passion, that hungry, let's get famous, let's get recognized, we have something to offer passion, is extremely felt on All American Trash. And I think you should listen to it. It's 5:10 in the morning. I don't know what I'm doing with my life, but I figured I would continue this video. We're on The Family, Brockhampton's album, The Family. It's the album that we're on. I bought this half expecting for Brockhampton to release something else after they released this. And we all know how that proceeded, don't we? Anyway, I'm going to open this up and we're going to see what's inside. Spoiler alert, it's a t-shirt and a CD. I have removed the plastic from the box. Now, the main reason I'm opening this is because this is the only one that didn't sell out. There's plenty of it to go around it. So I'm just gonna go ahead and open it. I bought a fucking large because I'm an idiot. I'm an extra large. This is just gonna have to, I could probably wear it once, maybe, if it fits. But that's gonna have to go like hung up on my wall or something. CD. The Family. Amazing album. This is the next album on the list. And we're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about Brockhampton's The Family. That's all that's in here, by the way. Cool box. Not sure what the final, what we're going to do. This, I have to take good care of my stuff. I don't know what I'm going to do with this CD. Of course, I'll listen to it once or twice in my car. This shirt, I'm thinking I'm going to hang it up on my wall. Oh, look, it just slips right out. The Family. Let's go ahead and... You know what? The Family. I decided to just put it on. This will probably be the only time I wear it. It's very tight on me. I'm overweight. Yeah, Brockhampton's The Family. It's gonna go hung up on this wall. This
Now that we're on the subject, do you guys think I should move this over there next to the PC? I think I should. And I should put a record player and vinyl right here and other posters, whatever. Anyway, since I'm already recording, I think I'm just gonna briefly talk about the Brockhampton album known as The Family. It's a great album. Now, if you look at my list on Album of the Year, you'll notice that just a little bit, the ratings and the rankings are sort of off. You'll notice that I gave The Family a higher rating than the album that precedes it. I'm not going to spoil which one that is. And you might wonder, well, if it's a higher rating, why isn't it higher on the list? I'll explain that when I get to that album. So stay tuned for the next album. But for this album, The Family, it'll probably just become very obvious if you guys are true fans of Brockhampton. But this album's really good. This album's very good. Very listenable and enjoyable rap album. It's just that it's weird to call it a Brockhampton album. It really is a Kevin Abstract album. It would be Kevin Abstract's best album. But you'll notice, if you listen to The Family by Brockhampton, that all the members are gone. They're just not here. Except for Bareface. Bareface is here. And there are some like voicemail recordings that kind of sound like Amir Van. Genius says that it's Bareface. I'm gonna believe them. Whatever. I don't care. So I just think that The Family is a really good album. Its only flaws are, where are the rest of the band members? Does this even qualify as a real Brockhampton album? TM, in my opinion, not nearly as good as this one. It's a Brockhampton album, right? But it's just kind of the weakest one. And The Family, it's one of Brockhampton's strongest albums, but it's also one of their least Brockhampton albums. Does that make sense? Because it's only Kevin Abstract, and the production on it, while it is very impressive and very good, is not exactly what you expect from Brockhampton. It's a little bit of a betrayal, not in a negative way at all. Not in a negative way. It's a very good album, very easy to listen to. It's just a Kevin Abstract album, right? I hope I don't sound like I'm complaining too much. Very, very good album from a very, very good hip-hop / rap group that I love, and if you're watching this video, you probably love. Now, let's just talk about some of the songs. Just right off the bat, I know All That is one of my favorite songs. Big Pussy is one of my favorite songs. Let me look at the list of songs. There is only one song on here I don't like. Man, this list is a little bit hard to read, but it's the song that goes, "He just like me, front row." Huh? It's not that bad. It's not as bad compared to la-di-da-di-da-di-da. Do I trust him? Probably not. That's easily one of Brockhampton's least best songs. But The Family, good album. Lots of good stuff to say about it. Kevin Abstract is at his best. He truly is at his best on this album. The production, whoever's in charge of this, I believe it's just Bareface and Ramil and maybe some others. Jabari, I don't know who's all involved with the production, but it's done very good. Everything on here is very impressive. It's just, the reason why it's here and not higher is simply because it's not the truest Brockhampton album out there, right? The next albums that precede this album are truer Brockhampton albums. I hope you understand what I mean by now. That's not to say that this is bad. This is very good. You should listen to it. The next albums, though, are what we really want. Anyway, what else would I say about the family? It's got a lot of, I guess, Kanye vibes, Tyler the Creator vibes. Very just old school samples used a lot. And Kevin's voice is very... The mix of this album displays Kevin's voice very strongly. And I think it works. Everything on this album works. Sonically, if you didn't know who Brockhampton was and you listen to this album, I think you'll just like it. It's good. And if you're a Brockhampton fan, you like it, you're just like, where is everybody? And then this was a really good marketing decision on Brockhampton's part, I think. I enjoy the family. I think you should listen to it, especially if you like samples, if you like sample play and mixing, good production. Not too much filler on here either. I think the song I mentioned that I don't like, it's probably the only song I might skip, and I never do skip it when I listen to the album. Yeah, listen to The Family. Okay, class, this is the time where we talk about the Saturation trilogy. I thought that the entire Saturation trilogy fit in one bunch. Saturations 1, 2, and 3, regardless of what order I like them in, will be in this big chunk in this part of the video and on my list. You understand? And I'm going to keep it brief because I'm late. I'm overdue for this video. I wanted to make this video cooler and fancier than it ended up being, but I ended up losing my voice. I committed to other projects, and I just knew that this Brockhampton video wasn't going to be as fancy and as crazy and as big as I wanted it to be. Still going to be good video, I think. I'm going to put my effort into it. I'm going to make it a good video. But regardless, back into Saturation. The Saturation trilogy and The Family were really, really, really hard for me to place on the list because there were points in which I thought I might put The Family in there above one of the Saturations, and I decided, no, let's just leave it as it is. I'll review The Family and then I'll do the Saturation trilogy. And then once I got to at least deciding that it's just going to be The Family and then the Saturation trilogy, even then I ended up listening to the Saturation trilogy a million more times just to find out what order I like them in. I have made Brockhampton my #1 most played artist of all time by a lot. By a lot. We're going to get into my list now, the order in which I like the Saturation trilogy. It's going to be based on several things. There's what I call the banger to filler ratio, and that's going to play a big factor into the order of these albums. So I'll start, again, this is a worst to best list, so I'm starting with the worst one, going up to the best one. They're all good. There's no bad Brockhampton albums, okay? Starting with Saturation 1, I'm putting that one first, at the bottom of the trilogy. What the fuck? That was a squirrel. It scared the fuck out of me. We probably won't edit that out. Saturation 1's gonna come first because it's got some good bangers and it's got a lot of filler, but the filler is good. It's all good, right? It's probably the best filler out of all 3 Saturation albums, but there's a lot of it, right? The songs that are, the songs that explode, the songs that pop, a little fewer and far between when it comes to the Saturation trilogy. I think Saturation 2 and 3 have a little bit more of that, right? Saturation 1's an awesome album. Heat is one of their best songs. Star, Gold, all really, really good songs. Next up is Saturation 2. Saturation 2 is up next because, again,
We have more bangers than filler. So that's good, right? It's good that more of the album is bangers. And we have less filler. However, the filler on Saturation 1 is better than the filler on Saturation 2. Jello is one of Brockhampton's worst songs. I do not like that song. Sometimes I skip it when I'm listening to that album. You have Gummy. You have Junkie. You have Queer. Tokyo. There's lots of bangers on Saturation 2. And that's why that one's in the middle. And finally, Saturation 3 is the best Saturation album, in my opinion, for the same reason. The banger to filler ratio. Most of this album is fire, fire, fire. The songs are timeless. The bops are the boppiest bops. Very, very little filler. And the filler is actually good. It's just the least cohesive. So none of these songs are bad songs, even the filler songs. It's just that the filler songs seem to break the energy a little bit. There seems to be an aesthetic, a theme. And on Saturation 3, the filler songs, the songs that aren't the banger bops, they take away from the aesthetic a little bit. Not that much, but enough to notice. Enough to notice, like, hey, this is like a weird song. It's not like the other songs. You have Bleach. You have Rental. Ooh, got the feeling. The final song, Team, their most passionate song. I really like Bareface's performance on that. Saturation 3 is the strongest in the Saturation trilogy. When I first heard the Saturation trilogy as it was coming out, I was convinced Saturation 2 was the best one. Now I'm putting it in the order of 3, 2, and 1. That's if I'm talking best to worst. But this is a worst to best album, so going down, up. Saturation 1, then Saturation 2, then Saturation 3. And there's only a couple more albums to talk about. Isn't that right? Isn't that right, YouTube? Next up on the list is Roadrunner, New Light, New Machine. In the process of making this video, I decided to buy Roadrunner, New Light on vinyl because it was a good price. I love this album and it's just so novelty. First, I'm going to talk about the vinyl, and then I'm going to talk about the actual content of the music, the album, okay? This thing is just so killer, man. Look at it. It's big. It's 2 albums. It's 2 discs. 2 vinyl records in here. Lyrics, artwork, lots of fun stuff like that, okay? Really amazing vinyl record. Nice white color with orange stickers in the middle, if I remember correctly. It's been a while since I've spun it, if I'm being honest, but really good vinyl. I highly recommend you buy it if you're a vinyl collector. Now, as for the album, the music, Brockhampton's Roadrunner, New Light, New Machine. What is this like? Well, I would go as far as to say this is Brockhampton's most ambitious album, okay? This is the album in which they decided to try something new. All of the members' performances on here are pretty awesome. Granted, some members don't show up as much as other members do on other albums. Every performance on here is pretty freaking awesome, and I think this album is enhanced by all of the features that are present on this album, okay? There are so many artists on here that you just have to listen to this album for. You've got A$AP Rocky, you've got A$AP Ferg. There's a rapper on here named So Gone So Flexy, I think. That guy's awesome. He knows how to rap. So many good performances, good songs on here, really good vibe. This is a hip-hop classic. This is a rap must listen. If you like rap at all, the culture of rap, music of it, how it's made, Brockhampton is a band, it is a group you absolutely must familiarize yourself with. And this album, Roadrunner, New Light, New Machine, is just amazing. I love that it's got the track lists on the back. It's going to make this easy to talk about. First song is Buzz Cut featuring Danny Brown. Very high energy. This album also features some production, I believe. Definitely some vocal performances from JPEG Mafia, so that's really, really cool. The song Count on Me is one of Brockhampton's catchiest songs. I think that's the one that's featuring A$AP Rocky, but it doesn't say it's featuring A$AP Rocky. You can tell it's him. That's a really good song. You've got Bankroll, which actually does say it's featuring A$AP Rocky and A$AP Ferg. Okay? Just lots of good stuff on here. When I Ball is a really good track. Don't Shoot Up the Party is a really good track. There's even bonus tracks on here. You've got Jeremiah, you've got Sex, and you've got Pressure / Bow Wow. So much content on here. This was an album for the fans, right? What makes this album very impressive is you could tell shortly after Amir was kicked out of the group, you could tell that the group was fracturing. You could tell they weren't going to last much longer, sadly. This album is a diamond in the rough. While they were in that experimental phase, they released some, albums that not everybody liked, were definitely divisive. In my opinion, it's so hard to not like this album. This is an album that, even through all the downfalls, even through all the problems Brockhampton faced as a group, this is the album that they were able to turn Super Saiyan on and just make something truly awesome and unique, especially to their genre. Now, this isn't my favorite album of theirs, and if you've been watching this far, you already know what the #1 album is gonna be, don't ya? So, here it goes. The moment you all been waiting for. The best Brockhampton album is Ginger. That's right. You guessed it. You guessed correctly. Ginger is the best Brockhampton album, okay? This is going to be the easiest part of my video to do, because if you've been following thus far and you're a Brockhampton fan, you already know what makes Brockhampton good. Then everything that makes Ginger the best Brockhampton album should be so self-evident. It should be so obvious. But I'm still going to tell you guys what it is, because I'm a nice guy and I like to talk to you guys, okay? So, when Brockhampton kicked out Amir Van from the group, you could tell there was some uncomfortability. You could tell things were left open and not every band was on the same page with what the sound would be like, what the vibe would be like going forward, right? Somehow, on Ginger, every member becomes a Super Saiyan and brings forth some of the best stuff they've done. In fact, the best stuff that they've done. I think Ginger is their most cohesive project. I don't think there's any filler on this album, at least not in my opinion. You could argue that the Slow Tie song is a filler song, but I quite like it and I never skip it. And in fact, it's like a context builder for another song later in the album, okay? The intro track, No Halo, is an amazing opening track. Instead of going hard, Brockhampton opted for a somber start to the album. It's dark and it's brooding, you know, but it's a rap song. It's a pop rap song. So it's not too complicated. But it's good. Really good intro. I believe Sugar, which is Brockhampton's most streamed song to date, it probably will be now that they're broken up. That's track number 2 on this album. And pretty much every song after that is just awesome. You've got If You Pray Right. I believe Big Boy is on this album, if I'm not mistaken. Love Me for Life or Love You for Life. I wish you loved me for life. Really good song, really good performance by Bareface. I think the last song is called Victor Roberts, which shows some spoken word kind of rap poetry done by Victor Roberts. No idea who that really is. He only shows up for this song, named after him. What he's talking about is very personal, it's very powerful, it's very emotional. Then you get some Bareface singing at the end of this album. I think that this album has amazing, immaculate production. It's very simple, but it's very fine-tuned to where it's simple but perfect. Just every member's performance here is awesome. This is the most Brockhampton album. That's why this is the number 1 album. The last album I talked about, Roadrunner, New Machine, New Light, very bold, very big, very ambitious project. But this one wins. Ginger has to win because just of how, first of all, how perfect it is, 0 skips, and secondly, because of how Brockhampton it is. You understand what I mean, right? If you're a Brockhampton fan, you absolutely understand what I'm talking about right now. None of the albums I've talked about so far are bad. None of them. But Ginger, in my humble opinion, is the best one, okay? That's really all I have to say. Thank you for watching this whole time. I really wanted to make this video fancier, more edited, a lot more effort than what I put into it. And this was a lot of effort for me. I have time constraints. I have other things I'm working on. But I really wanted this to be a big video. I doubt this will get too many views, but I just wanted to express my thoughts about one of my favorite bands / hip-hop groups. I think I've said a lot, and tell me what you guys think in the comments. You agree with my opinions? Do you disagree? What's your favorite Brockhampton album? What's your least favorite Brockhampton album? Who's your favorite member? Have you ever seen them live? I saw it once in San Francisco. I don't remember if I mentioned that in this video. It was a really good performance. I believe it was when they released Iridescence. Very, very good group performance, but again, you can kind of tell it was slightly uninspired. In Ginger, they bring it back. They bring Brockhampton back, okay? If you want to follow me on Twitter, my username is @PunishedNormie. Follow Punished Normie on Twitter. Hit subscribe on this video. Hit like on this video. Share this video with your friends. Tell your friends to subscribe. I'm going to do more videos for you. Thanks for watching.
Ooze Pop signing off. Ugh.